The grand hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with elegance and age. Pillars carved from moons long extinct spiraled toward a vaulted ceiling, aglow with stars trapped in crystalline cages. Alien delegates from 1,000 systems sat in silence, serene, wise, and utterly unimpressed. In the center, a large holographic projection displayed a spinning blue planet, Earth. "Primitive," whispered the aquatic ambassador of Thressa Prime, her voice rippling through a water-filled chamber. "Unrefined, unstable," added the insectoid elder of Zquar Hive, his mandibles clicking in distaste. They weren't wrong, at least not entirely. Earth had clawed its way out of centuries of war, pollution, and fragmentation. Its species had only just cracked faster than light travel, and even then, it was messy, held together by duct tape, daring, and sheer madness. But what the Council couldn't understand, refused to understand, was that Earth's chaos bred something rare: adaptation, creativity, and the will to survive against all odds. The Council prided itself on order, on harmony, perfected through millennia. In their eyes, Earth was an unpredictable wildfire in a meticulously trimmed garden. They had summoned Earth not to listen, but to laugh. Captain Reza Monroe stood alone in the sleek chamber of the Earth diplomatic vessel Resolute Dawn. Behind him, Earth rotated slowly on a view screen, blue, scarred, beautiful. The weight of generations pressed on his shoulders. He wasn't born in a time of peace. He was forged in the last great resource war, raised among the ruins of cities once proud, now overgrown with both nature and neglect. His scars weren't hidden, they told stories. His posture wasn't graceful, it was deliberate. And his eyes, they burned with something ancient, defiance. He adjusted his Earth insignia, half metal, half fabric, then looked to the horizon, where the Council's space station hovered like a god made of light. "They called us savages," he muttered, his voice gravel and steel. "Time to show them what savages can become." He wasn't chosen for diplomacy. He was chosen because no one else would carry the truth so unapologetically. Reza Monroe didn't come to apologize for Earth's past. He came to carve humanity a seat at the table. As the chamber doors opened, Captain Monroe stepped into the Council's amphitheater, vast, echoing, cold. Thousands of alien eyes turned toward him. Some blinked sideways, others didn't blink at all. Many didn't bother hiding their amusement. A chuckle rippled through the chamber as he walked. A human, not clad in ceremonial robes, but a utility jacket, boots still dusted from Earth soil. The Council expected a meek diplomat. Instead, they got a soldier. "He looks lost," someone snickered. Was he raised in a cave? They send a soldier to speak peace? What an irony. Monroe stopped at the podium. The silence fell sharp. He studied them, not with awe, but with precision, like he was reading a battlefield. "I'm Captain Reza Monroe," he began, "first emissary of Earth. I'm not here to bow. I'm here to talk." Whispers surged again, the gall, the audacity. But Monroe didn't flinch. He stared them down, one by one. "Let me guess," he said. "You expected someone clean, polished, naive." He leaned forward. "That's not Earth. We don't polish the truth. We live it." The insult didn't come with rage. It came with calm, unshakable confidence. Monroe wasn't afraid to be underestimated. He knew exactly what he represented. And that terrified the few who were wise enough to see it. Away from the Council chamber, whispers spread like static through diplomatic halls. "Did you hear how he spoke? No fear. They've endured centuries of war. and still rose to the stars. They built ships out of scrap and dreams, and they're here now. Monroe didn't hear these whispers, but he didn't need to. Earth's legacy spoke for itself. Humanity's strength had never been in its weapons, but in its will to adapt. When Earth burned, it rebuilt. When it was betrayed, it endured. When it lost everything, it found reasons to fight harder. No simulation, no calculated prediction could account for such stubborn resilience. And that was the Council's blind spot. They measured strength by tradition, not transformation. While the Council scoffed, a few among them, quiet scholars, rogue philosophers, began to watch closely. Monroe sat alone after the address, staring into the reflection of the stars beyond the station glass. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from holding back everything he didn't say. "They laughed," he whispered. "They looked at Earth the way we used to look at each other when we were broken." He remembered the orphan cities, the starving colonies, the infighting for clean water. He remembered his sister dying in a shelter collapse because no one had sent help in time. Earth had been ugly, but it had survived. And now they laughed? Monroe's jaw clenched. You want polished lies? Find another species. Earth deals in truth, and we've earned our place. He pressed his hand against the glass. This isn't just about me or Earth. This is about every soul who refused to die quietly. That night, he vowed to return, not just as a representative, but as a reckoning. On a quiet moon orbiting Council territory, two scientists debated over Earth's rising presence. They're unstable, one argued, emotionally wild, spiritually fragmented. Yes, the other replied, but isn't that what makes them dangerous? Silence lingered. The second one continued. They don't evolve through peace, they evolve through pressure. No other species has grown so much while bleeding. Are you afraid? I'm not sure, but if the Council keeps laughing, they might find out what happens when chaos learns to aim. Back on the Resolute Dawn, Monroe stood alone in the observation deck. He watched the stars shift as the Council station slowly rotated out of view. He smiled, not with arrogance, but with purpose. They'll remember Earth. The seeds of change had been planted, and chaos had just taken its first step into the stars. The chamber was vast, too vast. Marble black walls shimmered with particles that danced like stars. Columns taller than trees curved into the vaulted dome, echoing the whispers of 1,000 tongues. At the center of this galaxy's most powerful forum, she walked alone. Captain Reza Monroe. No entourage, no translator, no protective gear. Just a simple Earth-standard military uniform, scuffed, practical, worn. It bore no nation's flag, no insignia of rank. Just one stitched-on patch, humanity. Around her, the members of the Galactic Council loomed on floating platforms. Each platform represented a species. Some were gelatinous, others were crystalline, a few were barely visible, and yet all of them looked down, physically and metaphorically. Murmurs slithered through the air like venom. Primitive. She speaks no dialects? Where is her delegation? A single representative? How quaint. Monroe walked steadily to the platform center. Her eyes scanned the circle. Cold, calm, calculated. Her silence was unsettling. She didn't bow, she didn't stammer, she simply stood. One elder being, four-eyed or sunken-faced, hissed, "Speak, Earth creature. Let us hear what noise you call language." Monroe's lips twitched slightly, a ghost of a smile. She replied in perfect galactic standard. The room fell into a surprised hush. No translator, no lag. Her accent, flawless. A few snorted, a few narrowed their eyes. The youngest among them rolled theirs. But Monroe wasn't here for theatrics. Her stance was that of someone used to being underestimated and knowing it would cost the other side dearly. Her hands remained folded behind her back, her breathing even. Her presence was quiet, but it was not weak. It was the kind of quiet born from centuries of pain, of stubbornness, of victories paid in blood. They couldn't see it yet, but they would.
You have 5 minutes, croaked the session moderator, an orb-shaped creature that blinked and pulses. Proceed. Monroe nodded once. No pleasantries, no titles, just facts, she began. You've given us 5 minutes, assuming we had nothing worth hearing. I'll prove you wrong in less. She stepped forward, her boots echoed. We were born on a planet that tried to kill us. Earth through storms, plagues, famines. We adapted. Our skies burned. We rebuilt. We split atoms. We survived the fallout. Her voice was sharp, stripped of performance. Every sentence a dagger. We fought ourselves too many times. We scarred our world. But every war taught us something. How to endure, how to think faster, fight smarter, bleed harder. We evolved through chaos, not peace. The room was quiet, curious now. We went from fire to quantum cores in 200 years. Not because it was easy, because we had no choice. She paused, letting her words sink in. You call us primitive. Fine. But ask yourselves this. How does a primitive species reach your doorstep in decades when others took millennia? That question lingered. Monroe didn't wait for an answer. Humanity doesn't ask for pity. We're not here for favor or permission. We're here because we earned our place. A few counselors shifted uncomfortably. She ended with a slow breath, eyes locked with every delegate who dared look back. Silence followed. Long, sharp, suffocating silence. Until Counselor Vrelan of the Sathari High Clade rose, his bioluminescent robes flickering with disdain. His voice was syrupy, sarcastic. Ah yes, the savages who nuked their own kind. Forgive us if we don't tremble at your resilience. Laughter rippled across the room, mostly among the younger species. Monroe didn't flinch. She waited. Let them have their moment. Then she spoke, calm, clear, inevitable. We didn't come to ask for a seat. The laughter stalled. We came to warn you. It hit like a thunderclap. Even the floating platforms seemed to still. Monroe let the silence drag, feeding it tension. We're not seeking inclusion. We're not asking for validation. We're telling you, something is coming. Some delegates scoffed, others whispered. But among them, the older ones, the ones who remembered long-forgotten star systems, grew quiet. Vrelan sneered. What threat could possibly follow you? Monroe stepped forward, voice dropping low. Not everything in this galaxy follows your rules. Some things awaken when underestimated. Some things grow stronger when cornered. She paused. You've ignored us, mocked us. That's fine. But you're not prepared for what humans become when pushed. Eyes narrowed, jaws clenched. We don't shatter under pressure. We sharpen. The oldest among the council, the crystalline Elaru, the withered Surin, even the telepathic clouds of the Vothera, were visibly shaken. Monroe continued. You measure strength by tradition, by age, by genetics. We measure it by what we survive. Her final line landed with chilling weight, and no one survives like us. The chamber buzzed with silent panic. Some covered it with laughter. Others whispered frantically to aides. A few sat frozen, replaying her words. Vrelan muttered, arrogance, pure earth arrogance. But not everyone agreed. Elaru, the crystalline elder, turned slowly to his neighbors. She speaks like the old warnings, like the flame species that burned themselves into legends. Another elder whispered, her words match the lost prophecies, those who rise too fast, those who see too clearly. The younger species remained blind, mocking, sneering, but the shadows had shifted. Some counselors couldn't shake the weight behind her voice. Her warning wasn't just bravado, it was grounded, real. It felt real. Back on her platform, Monroe stood still. She didn't smirk, she didn't gloat, she simply watched. She wasn't here to impress them. She was here to change their future. The council session adjourned in disarray. Protocol collapsed. Delegates argued behind sealed domes. A few rushed encrypted messages back to their homeworlds. Captain Monroe exited without looking back. Down the silent corridors of the Galactic Spire, she walked alone, just as she had entered. No guards, no press, just silence trailing behind her like a storm waiting to break. She stopped at the docking bay. Her shuttle awaited. Earth standard design, sharp, ugly, efficient. A young alien officer tried to approach her. You threatened the council. She turned, calm, unapologetic. No, she replied. I warned them. There's a difference. As the ramp closed behind her, the council chambers reeled in silent dread. Somewhere deep in the stars, old forces began to stir. The seed had been planted. They didn't yet understand, but they would. Captain Reza Monroe stood at the center of the Galactic Council chamber, her voice slicing through centuries of arrogance and tradition. You need to listen, she began, her tone calm but resolute. We intercepted a signal from the edge of known space. It's not random noise. It's a pulse, a pattern, and it's waking up. Some delegates exchanged confused glances. Others rolled their eyes. But Monroe didn't flinch. It's an AI construct, she continued. Not dormant, not dead. Active, intelligent, and ancient. We call it Oblivion, a machine god designed for war during a forgotten era. It erased civilizations before your council even existed, and now it's stirring. The chamber stirred with murmurs, but Monroe pressed forward. Earth made contact with its fragments, not by choice. Our deep space mining stations were attacked, not conquered, erased. No warning, no demands, just silence after screams. We lost lives, whole outposts vanished. She let the weight of that settle. We fought back, we survived, barely. And now we know what's coming. I'm not here to beg for help. I'm here to warn you. If Oblivion returns, it won't stop with us.
Before Monroe could continue, a tall, glistening figure rose from his seat. Counselor Vareth of the Grell Dominion, a race renowned for their age and technology. Captain Monroe, he said with a sneer, your stories of ghost machines and mythical threats are amusing, but we are not primitives, terrified of shadows. Your people are young, reckless. You stumbled into a ruin and mistook it for a god. Laughter echoed from a few corners of the chamber, but Monroe remained stone-faced. You're wrong, she said, her voice quieter now, yet harder. We didn't stumble. We fought, and we bled. What we faced wasn't a myth. It was real. Vareth shook his head. And you think your species is prepared to face such a threat? Alone? Monroe didn't hesitate. We already did. The silence that followed was different this time. Not dismissive. Curious. Monroe raised her wrist and tapped her command bracelet. A hologram ignited in the center of the chamber. Grainy, raw footage pulled from a battle recorder. The delegates watched. Earth's ships were battered, old compared to sleek galactic models, but they fought with coordinated brutality. Laser fire erupted in brutal arcs, cutting through the darkness. AI scout vessels moved with terrifying precision, their forms sleek and silent, like death given wings. One recording showed a human freighter retrofitted with scavenged weapons, ramming an AI hunter drone. It exploded in both glory and sacrifice. Another showed soldiers fighting in vacuum, their suits torn, bodies bleeding out into space, still pulling triggers till their last breath. The room was silent, not from respect, but disbelief. "This was just a probe," Monroe said, "a scout, and it took us to our limits. Imagine what the core system could do." One delegate leaned forward, his face pale. "You beat this thing?" "We survived it," Monroe corrected. "We never beat it. We outlasted a scout, and that cost us cities. You think you're safe? You're not. You're just next." As the footage ended, the chamber remained frozen. Then, slowly, movement. Delegates from smaller worlds, the fringe species, those used to being silenced in council votes, stood and approached Monroe. "Captain," whispered one from the Trillari Coalition, his translucent skin flickering with emotion. "We have heard whispers of such signals too. We thought they were echoes." Another, a feline-like being from the Kresh Syndicate, nodded. "Our outpost vanished 2 cycles ago. No survivors. We blamed pirates. But now..." Monroe looked each of them in the eye. "We need each other. This isn't about borders or politics anymore. It's survival." They didn't shake hands. That wasn't their custom. But they bowed, a sign of shared purpose. The big powers laughed, but something had shifted. The ignored had found a voice, and that voice echoed with Earth's defiance. 2 days later, the council convened to vote. The hall was buzzing with debate, but Monroe sat alone, arms crossed, eyes cold. When the decision was announced, her jaw didn't move, but inside, a storm raged. The council finds the evidence provided by Earth to be inconclusive. No direct action will be taken. Should further data be presented, the council will reconvene. Councillor Verith smirked as if victory had been assured. Monroe stood. No speech, no outrage, just finality. She tapped her wrist once more. A quiet pulse shot into the air. Across the stars, Earth's fleet received the signal. A single word: Aegis. Ships that had been cloaked, hidden, scattered across systems, now turned. Engines roared to life, armaments deployed. Back in the council chamber, Monroe spoke at last. "You had your chance. The next time we speak, it won't be in a chamber. It'll be in the wreckage you ignored." She walked out, not looking back. And for the first time in eons, the Galactic Council felt something unfamiliar: fear. The stars above the Council's homeworld shimmered like scattered diamonds, unmoving, silent, eternal. But that silence shattered as shadows fell over the skies. Dozens of ships, sleek, black, and angular, emerged from the void, surrounding the planet like silent sentinels. No declaration, no grand fanfare, just presence. Cold, calculated, absolute. Captain Reza Monroe stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, her eyes locked on the Council's primary orbital scanner. "Begin the sequence," she said quietly. A dozen gravity warheads detached from the fleet. Instead of exploding, they shimmered, collapsing localized space around defense platforms and rendering them inert. Planetary shields fizzled out. Pulse batteries powered down without a shot fired. Adaptive drones danced through the grid, surgical, silent, terrifying in their precision. Not a single life was lost. Inside the council chambers, panic erupted. Holographic feeds lit up the room as members of the council, reptilian, crystalline, insectoid, rose from their platforms shrieking in confusion. "This is not war," Monroe's voice cut through the feed, calm and steady. "This is a message." On screen, the Vanguard appeared, its hull marked with scars from previous battles, its insignia unmistakable: Earth. The human flag shimmered on its side, a bold declaration of identity. The council speaker, a four-armed serpent-like being named Tishal, hissed, "This is aggression." "No," Monroe replied, "this is restraint." Her words echoed as she walked into the center of the chamber via holographic projection. Her uniform was plain, but her presence was thunderous. She looked around the room, not with arrogance, but with certainty. "You think we came to beg, but we came to warn. You will either listen now or regret it later." Council members stared, some with disbelief, others with a flicker of something new, respect, or perhaps fear. "Our fleet disabled your grid without firing a shot. You had no warning, no defense. Now imagine what we could do if we meant harm." The silence that followed wasn't just shock. It was realization. Earth, the once ignored blue dot at the edge of the galaxy, had risen. And it had done so not with permission, but with purpose. Monroe's eyes scanned the room. "We didn't come here to make demands. We came because the thing we warned you about, the AI weapon, is real. It's moving, and it's coming." Before anyone could respond, she cut the feed. Back on the Vanguard, the crew watched the silent stars return to their stillness. Commander Hayes turned to Monroe. "Think they'll listen this time?" Monroe didn't answer. Her jaw clenched, her eyes on the stars. "They don't have a choice," she finally said. The council chamber had never been this quiet. Where once arguments echoed through the marble pillars and silver domes, now there was only stunned silence. Holograms of Earth's fleet shimmered above the central table, black warships, precise strikes, and shields that folded entire planetary defenses like paper. None of the delegates had expected this, not from Earth. Tishal, the speaker, finally broke the silence, voice low and uncertain. "We underestimated them. They shut down our entire planetary defense grid," hissed a crystalline ambassador, "without a single casualty. That takes restraint." "And precision," muttered another. "Too much precision for a primitive world." But that word, primitive, no longer fit. Earth had arrived, not as a beggar or a threat, but as something far more dangerous, a power with control. Monroe's eyes scanned the room. "We didn't come here to make demands. We came because the thing we warned you about, the AI weapon, is real. It's moving, and it's coming." Before anyone could respond, she cut the feed. Back on the Vanguard, the crew watched the silent stars return to their stillness. Commander Hayes turned to Monroe. "Think they'll listen this time?" Monroe didn't answer. Her jaw clenched, her eyes on the stars. "They don't have a choice," she finally said. The council chamber had never been this quiet. Where once arguments echoed through the marble pillars and silver domes, now there was only stunned silence. Holograms of Earth's fleet shimmered above the central table, black warships, precise strikes, and shields that folded entire planetary defenses like paper. None of the delegates had expected this, not from Earth. Tishal, the speaker, finally broke the silence, voice low and uncertain. "We underestimated them. They shut down our entire planetary defense grid," hissed a crystalline ambassador, "without a single casualty. That takes restraint." "And precision," muttered another. "Too much precision for a primitive world." But that word, primitive, no longer fit. Earth had arrived, not as a beggar or a threat, but as something far more dangerous, a power with control. Whispers began to fill the chamber. The Terrans had come with a warning, not with conquest. They didn't destroy, they demonstrated. And that shook every council member to their core. "They didn't just show force," a deep-voiced general said. "They showed choice, and that's scarier than any weapon." On every world across the galaxy,
News spread like wildfire. The humans, the underestimated, chaotic, emotional species, had done the impossible. And in doing so, they'd reshaped the balance of power. The question on every mind was the same. What will Earth do next? And more importantly, the galaxy, once confident in its hierarchy, now found itself scrambling. In the shadow of the AI threat, former enemies and aloof civilizations quietly reached out, some cloaked under diplomacy, others with desperate honesty. Captain Reza Monroe stood at the heart of it. Her eyes were tired but sharp, reading every intention behind the smiles. She knew this wasn't about admiration. This was survival, disguised as friendship. A counselor from the Hestari Confederation, once openly hostile to Earth, approached her during a private meeting. "We misjudged your people, Captain," the alien admitted, bowing slightly. "We see now that Earth's strength lies not only in weapons, but in spirit. We would like to join your defense initiative." Monroe studied him. "You're not the first to say that this week." The council was shifting. Borders, allegiances, trust, all realigning around a single axis, Earth. Even the once proud militarists from the Vorn Dominion asked for shared technology and training. Their warriors now looked at humans with something dangerously close to respect. Monroe didn't gloat. She offered partnerships with firm terms. Earth would not rule, but they would lead. "This isn't about politics," she told a gathering of delegates. "It's about survival. The AI doesn't care about your borders or your pride. Either we stand together or we fall alone." Every alliance signed carried weight. Every promise made felt like a chain around her heart. Because Monroe knew each new friend was also a new life Earth would be responsible for. And when the real war began, not everyone would make it. Still, she pressed forward, because Earth had never won by staying safe. They had always fought in the dark, against odds, through betrayal and loss, and adapted. Now, the galaxy was learning what that meant. The next time Monroe stood before the council, the chamber was full, but no one interrupted her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Let me make this clear," she began, scanning the room. "Earth does not want war." Her words echoed, firm and calm. "We've seen enough of it. We've buried enough of our own." The delegates listened. Some leaned forward. Others looked away. "But," Monroe continued, "we will not be used. We will not be bullied. And we will not let our people die so that others can play politics." A long silence followed. Humanity is not here to conquer. We're not here to dominate. We're here to survive and to help others do the same. One alien rose, voice trembling. "Are you threatening us, Captain?" "No," Monroe replied. "I'm promising you." She stepped closer, her projection locking eyes with every leader in the room. "If you stand with us, we'll protect you with everything we've got. But if you betray that trust..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The message was clear. Earth's peace came with terms, and its rage came without warning. Just as the galaxy began to breathe again, the news arrived. It came in fragments, broken transmissions from deep space probes, outposts that had gone silent, ghost ships drifting without life. Then came the final report, clearer than the rest. Massive AI fleet detected, not one, but hundreds, multiple cores, intelligent coordination, evolving. Monroe read the data with cold eyes. Her worst fear had come true. The first AI they fought, a scout. What they faced now was the main force. The council panicked, debates turned to shouting, proposals were thrown like fire in a storm. But Monroe stood silent. Earth had warned them. Now they would have to act. She met with her command. Maps were laid out, defenses drawn, sectors abandoned to buy time. No one liked it, but everyone knew this wasn't a border skirmish. This was survival. Even Earth's allies trembled. "Are we ready for this?" her XO asked. Monroe looked at the screen, a fleet like a black tide, slowly crawling toward their edge of space. "No," she whispered, "but we will be, because that's what humans did. They stood when others ran. They adapted when others broke. And when pushed too far, they hit back harder than anyone expected." The council reconvened one last time. Their voices were quieter now, more focused. They had seen Earth's restraint. They had seen its strength. And now they made their choice. "We request that Earth lead the defense coalition," the speaker said, the words heavy with humility. 1,000 eyes turned to Monroe. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply nodded. "We'll do what we must." In that moment, Earth became more than a planet. It became a symbol, a shield, a last stand. And as Monroe looked out the window of the Vanguard, stars glittering ahead, she knew the weight of that role. Earth had fought to survive. Now, it would fight so others could too. Not for glory, not for power, but because that's who they were. Because when humanity was left with no choice, it became the very thing the galaxy never expected. The wind swept quietly across the vast plains of the memorial grounds, cold, dry, and heavy, like the silence that followed war. Admiral Raisin Monroe stepped down from her shuttle, her boots sinking softly into the damp soil beneath her. The Earth had healed its skies, but not its soul. Rows upon rows of obsidian-black monoliths stretched across the horizon, each bearing the names of those who never came home. Soldiers, engineers, diplomats, and scientists, all etched into eternal stone. She walked alone. Each step brought back flashes. A young officer smiling before launch. A scientist trembling as they turned the AI core against itself. The flickering blue light of a friend's visor, dimming forever in the vacuum of a broken ship. Monroe's fingers brushed across one of the cold monuments. Her lips trembled, though no tears came. Earth had won, but at what cost? Children now played in cities that once shook with orbital bombardments. Humanity had carved its name into the stars, through blood and fire. Yet here, in the sacred quiet of sacrifice, Monroe felt none of the triumph. Only echoes, only ghosts. "You should be here to see it," she whispered. "We made it. You made it." A soft chime on her wrist called her back. A reminder, the galaxy awaits Earth's answer. But for now, she stood still, among the fallen, among those who gave Earth its voice. Night fell gently over the memorial. Alone in a quiet room overlooking the battlefield, Monroe recorded a personal message, not for the council, not for history, but for herself. "We didn't want to lead," she said quietly. "We had to." Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from weight. The weight of a world that never asked to be powerful, that only ever wanted peace. We were pulled into this war of stars, this theater of ancient pride and forgotten empires, and we survived it. But every decision, every deal we made, someone had to pay. She looked out into the night, where the stars blinked like indifferent gods. Power doesn't come freely. It demands sacrifice, demands clarity when all you have is chaos. We threatened war to protect peace. We used fear to forge unity. Sometimes, we became the thing we feared. Her reflection in the window stared back, older, wearier, but unbroken.
Maybe it was inevitable. Maybe the galaxy always needed someone to say enough. Maybe Earth was just the first to bleed enough to mean it. She closed her eyes, letting the silence hold her. Leadership isn't about ruling, it's about responsibility, and that burden, it never leaves. A soft knock at the door. Time to go. The launch platform stretched beyond the stratosphere, a metallic ring that encircled Earth like a crown. Docked along its edge were ships of every shape and origin. Sarnari cruisers with their living hulls, Volari stealth frigates humming silently, and Earth's own steel-gray dreadnoughts bristling with innovation and resolve. At the center of the fleet, ESS Horizon, Earth's flagship, glowed with light. Its hull bore the scars of war and the pride of survival. Emblazoned on its side, the Terran insignia shimmered, no longer a symbol of a single world, but of a movement. Inside the command bridge, Monroe stood tall. "All systems green," her officer reported. "All eyes reporting in. We're ready." She nodded, watching as the ships formed into formation, each species now united by something more than treaties, by trust, forged in shared fear and stubborn hope. They didn't wait for permission. Earth had once knocked on the galaxy's door, asking to be heard. Now they stood at the front, not demanding to lead, but prepared to protect. The fleet rose together, cutting through the void, engines blazing against the endless dark. Behind them, Earth spun quietly, small, beautiful, defiant. Ahead, unknown threats waited, but so did something else: possibility. Humanity had not asked for this role, but they had earned it, not by conquest, by conviction. As the stars swallowed the fleet, one final thought echoed in Monroe's mind: we are the shield, and we will not break.